The truth is in the what? Results. If we want to live below the line and lose the game of life, we know we need to blame lots of things. We need to make lots of excuses. We need to be very cynical about everything. Nothing works. True? Raise your hand if you know some people like that. Raise your hand if you know anyone intimately like that. Okay. To live above the line, we know we need to be responsible, accountable, and being an investor, totally. You have to accept responsibility for your actions. That means you have to accept when you lose money, that you will lose money at times. You have to be able to take a loss. Most people can't handle losing. To become a winner, you have to be able to handle losing and lose gracefully. And be accountable, take lots of action, and intelligent action. And I'll talk about that, when you go through all the strategies this weekend. I said we're bringing in over a dozen different experts to share with you. And you're going to learn some of the most amazing financial strategies there is. Some of the financial strategies I do personally or have done over the years. And I'll share with you as you go through all the strategies that come back Monday night for the last 3 hours. I'll be doing the last session before we wrap up Monday night. But in that session, I will go through and help you clarify for yourself. If you're thinking, I've got all these great strategies, I'm not sure which one to do, to help you come up with a system to help identify which strategy fits where, which strategies I'll even share with you the most successful. Some strategies are more successful than others. If you want to know what that is, I'll tell you based on the results of members for the last 12 years, which strategies have a higher degree of success rate. And I'll go all through that to make it as simple as possible. The question many of you have, can I do more than one strategy? The answer is, of course, you can. But there's a process for that, so I'll go through all that as well. So it helps you really be able... The goal of this education is not just to teach you things and go, that was great information. The goal is information. This program is designed to get you into action. Which is the only way that I know that you'll become successful at anything is to get what? To get started. Getting started is the most critical part of any journey. If you get started, what happens is that you start to learn rapidly, because when you're in the game, even it's only, what we're going to do is teach you how to get started safely and on a small scale. When we talk about a lot of financial stuff tomorrow in particular, and also on Sunday is a whole host of strategies for you, and Monday. But, you can get started smartly. Tomorrow we're going to paper trade. For one of the most successful strategies over the last decade or so has been, say, renting shares as an example. So tomorrow I'll walk you through that, and you'll know precisely how to do that. So before you leave here tomorrow, you'll know how to rent shares, because you will do it. And you'll do a paper trade, you'll look it up and do it. So even if you never do that strategy, at least you'll know how to do it as an example. And it's a very powerful cash flow strategy that helps many Australians supplement their income. Okay, because most Aussies are asset rich and cash flow poor. What we're looking for is strategies to give us cash flow, because that equals lifestyle. Make sense? So that's just one example. You're going to learn many strategies. You're going to learn what I think is probably one of the most profitable strategies right now is tomorrow night. I'm going to introduce that. I'm going to have one of the speakers go through in detail, something that I do a lot of, that I'm a big fan of, that I see massive upside and minimal downside. Strategies that people in the marketplace don't get access to. Okay? Some of our members get access to them. We can't help everyone, but some of these strategies are so difficult to pull off that they're not available. Like, we've taken many sophisticated strategies and made them available to middle-class Australians. Renting shares, as an example, is a strategy the rich used to do for many years. The average person never knew anything about it. In the last decade, that's become almost mainstream, as an example, through making it possible for a majority of people to understand. But there's other even more sophisticated strategies. So I will make many of these available, the leading edge strategy in this country, in this world right now. If there's a better strategy out there, we will find it, we'll identify the best person to teach it, and we'll simplify it so people can understand and replicate it. Does that make sense? So that's part of our goal with the financial strategy. So you'll have more strategy you need to choose from, but as a buffet, when you go to a buffet, are you meant to eat everything on the buffet, yes or no? Yes. There's always a debate about this. Okay, it's your life what you do. No, the buffet is there. If you don't like spinach, you don't go, I hate that buffet because there's some spinach there. No, you just take what's for you. It's there as a choice. Take what suits you, what suits your personality, what do you think might be right for you. You ultimately have to be responsible for that, and take what suits you. Okay, that's the idea of a buffet. Because if we had less choice, then it's not going to suit everyone. We want to have as many possible ways to achieve the outcome of creating the lifestyle that you want. And some of you, for instance, love the opportunity to sit up late at night and trade. Others of you will never sit in front of a computer and trade late at night because it just won't suit your personality, won't suit your work life, etc. When we also look at strategies, I'll go through it as well, that some strategies are more sustainable because they're easier to fit into your normal life. Where others, you might be able to make more with less money, but they'll take up a lot more time. They become almost like a career. So you've got to factor that in as well, what strategy you're more likely to stick at or you can fit into your life. I like sustainable type strategies, don't take up a lot of time, that I can fit into my life, that I can consistently do. It's like doing a gym workout. You might be able to work out 6 days a week, but could you fit 1 or 2 days into your life and make that sustainable? Making sense? So that's what you want to look at, is sustainability, consistency over a period of time is what produces results. So the question I have for you is, I'm curious, I want to know why some of you are here. So I'm just going to give you a chance in a moment to share where you're from and why you're here. What would you like to learn? Just put your hand up. We'll have a microphone come to you quickly. And I'm just curious, why are you here? What do you want to learn in the next 4 days? Just put your hand up. Anyone wants to share? Why are you here? Yeah, we'll start down the front with Leanne. Give Leanne a big hand, can we?
Hi, Jamie. We're from Cairns, my husband and my 2 children. And essentially, I'm here for the kids.
Yeah.
I've been involved with this kind of environment for a while, but the kids haven't, and I just feel that I wish I'd known it when I was their age.
Who else feels like that, by the way? Who wish they had access to this education at school, ideally? And Leanne, just quickly, and how did you find out about 21st Century?
Through a friend.
Yep, through a friend, yep. And this is your first 4-day event?
Yeah.
Yep. Well done. It's great to be able to do it as a family as well. So as far as, obviously, the kids are going to get a lot out of it, what do you hope to get out of it?
For me, mostly a distinction I can make in my mindset. I created my own trading program quite a while back, so I'm fairly set for my own strategy.
Fantastic.
But any little distinction I can make in my mindset, because I don't yet have the extent of the results that I want, so obviously I need to keep tweaking it.
Definitely. That's a very good point. Give Leanne a hand. And what Leanne's mentioned there is very important. There's many people in this room that are already successful in your careers or might be successful in real estate as an example, but know little about the stock market, or others of you might be successful in the stock market but know little about real estate or about business, and you might just want to learn some new distinctions and want to talk tomorrow about combining different strategies, how to accelerate results by combining the synergy of that. But others of you, it's just really just one distinction. I've been to many events and I'm a big believer in self-education. That's why I'm so passionate about this. But I know if I invest, say, $5,000 into a program and I just get one idea, what can that be worth to me in a month or 6 months or 12 months? You might go from after this event and you mightn't see like a massive difference in the short term, but you go from a year from now or 10 years from now, your life can be in a completely different place because that one idea, that one distinction you got this weekend. Now, my wish for each and every one of you is that you get abundance of dozens and dozens of ideas and distinctions. It's up to you. There's a lot of them will be shared. There's about 200 seminars going on here today. There's the one I'm delivering up here, and then there's individual ones that are being filtered inside your mindset or your belief systems down there where you're sitting. Does it make sense? So there's a lot of ideas and distinctions. Everything I share, jot this down, anything I share for a what? For a reason. There's a deliberate reason and purpose for it. It may seem simple. It may seem, why does he even bother mentioning that? It's for a reason, because it can be very important distinction that makes a big difference. And what I find in most people is that I often use the analogy of, I'm not a golfer, but over the years I've been invited out. I got a chance to meet Tiger Woods actually a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty cool. But I got invited out over the years by semi-professional golfers who's often looking for an investment backer, okay, to keep them on the pro circuit. And I remember having a golf day once, and a particular gentleman, he's making about $100,000 a year. He's an Australian. I forget his name now. And $100,000 a year playing golf, so most people say, well, that's pretty cool. But admittedly, they play 6 days a week. Often they train on the 7th. So, they obviously love golf. So what I asked him, though, I was curious, a particular question. I said, here's what I'm curious about. What is the difference between someone making, say, $100,000 a year as a golfer to someone making, say, $1 million a year? Now, I'm expecting this massive difference in skill level. He said, Jamie, you know what? The only difference is about one shot every 18 holes. Is the difference from being an average player and making, say, 100 grand a year, which a lot of people still think that's pretty cool, to making 10 times the amount. You don't have to be 10 times the better golfer. You don't have to be 10 times better at what you do in your life to outperform. What people don't realize, it's little differences that make a big difference. And that's what success is about, is identifying those little tweaks that you can do slightly different over a period of time. It produces a much bigger result. It leads to a pay rise, it leads to more customers in your business, it leads to better results in your trading profit. And just like when I teach some of the trading strategies or when the other presenters do, what you're looking for is the key distinctions. I know for those who are in Melbourne, when Richard Branson shared, most of the feedback, who was actually in Melbourne, who got to hear, when Richard Branson was interviewed with Eddie Maguire on stage. Now, 99% of the feedback that we got from that program about, say, Richard's interview was fantastic, got lots of ideas from it. A small percentage didn't get anything out of it. Now, when I read that stuff, I find it amusing because it's like, if people were actually, here's the difference. Now, I've heard Richard share his story many times or his key lessons, but in that particular interview for an hour and 15 minutes, whatever, he shared some absolute gems about business, some really key distinctions that are worth immense amounts of money. But it's not the distinction, it's how receptive is the individual to picking up on those distinctions. Does that make sense? You have to jot this down. You have to become what I call a success detective. You are looking for the key little differences that make someone outperform. Richard Branson shares some amazing little gems, what makes him the world's greatest entrepreneur. And most people got them. Some people got some of them, some people got all of them, and some people didn't get them. Does it make sense? Just like this weekend, there is amazing distinctions that there is no way an intelligent human being could sit here for 4 days and not dramatically improve the quality of their life in some way. Does it make sense? Unless we had a commitment or self-sabotage pattern to shut down, not listen, or not want to be open to that. Does it make sense? So my challenge to each and every one of you is, if you want to get the most out of this weekend or the most out of life, is one, to be narrow-minded or open-minded. What do you think? Open-minded, it's obvious. People are open-minded achieve more. People narrow-minded achieve less. It's the way it is. Number two, I challenge you to take lots of notes, okay? What I do when I'm sitting in a seminar is that I will have 2 sections in my notepad. At the back, I'll have an action list. So I'm writing my notes in the front, and then I'll turn to the back and I'll action. Tomorrow I'm doing this. At lunchtime I'll do this. Next week I'm doing this. So I leave with a list of action steps, because that's what you want to get good at. You want to be good at being organized. Well, what I mainly do now, I'm usually quickly email my team members on my iPhone straight away, action this, action that, because as you build up a team, you're going to get into delegation and you get things done. One of the reasons I become a multi-millionaire at a young age is very simply this: I don't procrastinate. If I think of something, get an idea, I action it immediately. In my companies, we have a flat management structure. One of the reasons we have that is because we like to move fast. In the 21st century, I think the best companies move fast. When companies get really big, they get slow. They have to go through all these management levels before something can be implemented. And it will take 2 years to launch a new division. When if I want to launch a new division, I'll do it in 2 weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? Richard Branson is the same. One of the reasons Virgin's been so successful, 400 independent companies, is because they come up with an idea, they'll action it rapidly. And that's what you've got to be able to get good at in life, is coming up with the idea and then putting it into action. Albert Einstein shared the definition of intelligence by Albert Einstein was this. Most people are thinking it's like how many academic degrees you have that you can put up on the wall. And what he said, the definition of intelligence is this, is the ability, jot this down, is the ability to entertain a new idea. The ability to entertain a new idea. That was the definition of intelligence. Really what he's basically saying is people that are open-minded are intelligent. People that are closed-minded are perhaps not intelligent. Does it make sense? I would add to what Albert Einstein said as a definition. I say it's not only the ability to entertain a new idea, it's the ability to action that idea. If all you get out of this weekend is the ability to tap into new ideas and consider new possibilities and get good at implementing ideas, then you will outperform the majority of people in this society. Why? Because most people think about things and they get around to it tomorrow or one day and they procrastinate. The power is in the now. When you get inspired by something, that's when you must action it. My friend Anthony Robbins says, jot this down, never leave the scene of a decision without first taking some immediate action towards the attainment of that goal. Never leave the scene of a decision without taking some immediate action towards the attainment of that goal. In other words, when you're inspired, you think of something, you put it into action. You do it now. Does it make sense? That is a powerful skill set to have. And you look at successful people, they're just good at doing things. Sometimes they're not as intelligent as other people. When you study successful people, there's many people that have made millions and in some cases billions of dollars, less intelligence than other people. There's a lot of very smart, broke people in this country. They're smart academically, but not smart in what Albert Einstein considers smart. That's where you've got to be smart. So who else wanted to share? I don't know if one or two other people want to share why you're here.
G'day, Jamie. My name's Pat. I'm from Brisbane, and the main reason I'm here is just to get some good strategies and obviously the mindset so that I can become location independent, like Tim Ferriss spoke about a lot at your event in Melbourne, and just really be able to live the life I want to live. And also a big part of that is meeting a lot of like-minded people while I'm here. So really looking forward to the 4 days. Thanks.
Good. Give Pat a hand. So everyone's here for obviously different reasons, but predominantly a lot of you obviously want to improve some result in your life, and I dare suspect most of you it's a financial result. True? Who's here that wants to improve financial results in their life? Okay. Who wants to improve other results in their life? Yep. Who wants to improve everything in their life? Okay. So what we've got to look at, as we said, simplicity simplicity is the greatest sophistication. So we want to look at that. A lot of these ideas are quite simple, but they're also important. So let's look at why most people fail then financially in this country, despite living in one of the richest countries on the planet. Because if we can understand that, we'll identify that maybe it's not that difficult to become wealthy in this country. We just have to do different things to what most people are doing. And if we can identify the very things to avoid, then that certainly makes it a lot easier and heavily doesn't guarantee success, but heavily stacks the odds in our favour. There's a statistic you may be familiar with. I shared it in Melbourne as well for those who are there. I think is that, jot this down, if you migrate to Australia, you are 4 times more likely to become a self-made millionaire than if you were born here. Now, for some of you, that's good news. Others of you is like, it's my parents' fault. It's their fault I was born in Australia. But what we want to look at is, why is that happening? Why is it 4 times more likely if you migrate to Australia to become a self-made millionaire than if you're born here? Raise your hand if you think it has something to do with mindset. Big clue, has something to do with mindset. Is it because immigrants that move to Australia, the government gives them interest-free loans to buy a house and start a business? Yes or no? Is it because Australians are super friendly to new people on the block and welcome them to this country? Yes or no? Is it because they're really good at English most of the time? They actually have disadvantages in most cases when they move to this country. Is it because they arrive here already rich? Most cases they don't. In most cases, they actually come from a country that's usually, in many cases, not in all cases, but been a lot of wars or a lot of poverty or a lot of more difficult economic opportunities than what, say, Australia is. Many times they don't even speak English. Many times they come with nothing. They have to leave everything behind in many cases, and they have to start from scratch. And so despite all these obstacles, they tend to become wealthier at a rapid rate. And it's not just in Australia that's the case. So if we want to identify that and you say, well, it's something to do with their mindset, it's all about their perception. Is that true? Are they perhaps, do you think they recognise the opportunity in Australia better than those that are born here? Yes. You definitely say that. Are they willing to perhaps work harder than those that are born here? Yes. You definitely say immigrants generally have a higher work ethic. Are they willing to start at the bottom if need be? All these are characteristic traits that has them more successful than those that are born here. Are they perhaps more open-minded than those that are born here? Yes. I would say in many cases, probably more open-minded. Not in all cases, okay? Do they have a willingness to face their fears, yes or no? In many cases, jot this down. And this is such an important psychology lesson for creating wealth or anything in your life. The greater your capacity or your ability to deal with uncertainty in your life, the greater your capacity or ability to become wealthy. Would you like me to repeat that? The greater your ability or capacity to deal with uncertainty in your life, the greater your ability or capacity to become wealthy or to become successful in anything, whether it's relationships, business, anything. It's the same psychology. The greater your ability or capacity to deal with uncertainty, the greater your ability to become successful. This will explain why most Australians are not financially successful. What most people want is what? Starts with S. They want security. They were taught, go to school, get a good education, get a good job, you'll work for 40, 50 years and you retire to the good life. By the way, how's that formula going these days? Is it perhaps a little bit outdated? See, what people don't understand is our education system. People say, well, why aren't we taught these things at school? Our education system was designed in the 19th century. Most of us in this room went to a 20th century school that was designed in the 19th century. The 19th century was the industrialization era. The industrialization era, before that, most people lived like in China. You know, China's changed from this, where people are moving from the regional areas, from farms to the cities. You know, that's what people used to do before the 19th century. And then what they needed was the industrialization created all these factories, mass production. So what they needed was an education system to teach people to get a job, work in the factories or in production, get a safe, secure job for life, because they needed a lot of employees. So the education system was born out of that. And that's why you notice the bell goes at school, you learn to report at certain times, show up at a certain time, move from class to class, you follow instructions, you do as you're told. It's a fear-based system, and it's about conformity. And that was a model that worked for that time of the world, because you could get a job for life. And that was, a job was better than nothing. And they needed people to follow the rules. There's no point having a production line and having creative little sparks going, oh, instead of putting this nut on this wheel on this car today, let's try something different, shall we? Let's just invent something else. No, you want it to be precise and people to follow a system, okay? The system also have you pay your taxes, okay? You earn a little bit, what they call just above the revolution level. If you don't earn enough, people go out in the streets and riot, like it's happening in Greece and some of the European countries. You'll see a lot more of this happening, is where people aren't getting enough money. They're below the revolution level. In other words, they'll start wanting to revolt against the system. And that's what some of these European countries are going to face very shortly, and America possibly in the future. Okay? So people earning enough so they wouldn't revolt against the system, maybe not completely happy, but at least they got a job. There's focus on material survival. And that was the education system. Has the world changed in the last couple of hundred years? Yes or no? Are we in the industrialization era, or what era are we now in? We're in the information age. So what we need is the more modern day education system, but we weren't taught this at school. So most people are following an old formula from an outdated era, and they're trying to apply that formula to today's world. And that's why I was struggling. I was taught, go to school, work hard, get a good job, but that wasn't computing. It wasn't working for me. In other words, we need more than that in our life to be successful. We all know that to be true. Okay? And that's where my idea came from when I went to university. My careers advisor said to me, Jamie, you want to make lots of money? Because when I was young, people used to ask me what I want to be when I grew up. And I said, I want to be rich. I don't know where that come from. I don't think it was because I was materialistic. It was more because rich was being above average. I used to play Monopoly, beat all my brothers and sister. And I used to watch Dallas. Remember Dallas on TV? Wow, that was inspiring. Okay, those are all tycoons. Did they have a life? And some of the Generation Y are going, what's Dallas? Okay, so whatever it was, I was inspired to become wealthy. So at 15 years of age, I actually started my first business, and I employed my cousins, my schoolmates, and I was selling Swede turnips. I grew up on a farm in northern New South Wales. Swede turnips are things they put in soups and stuff, and I was selling them to the Brisbane markets. My dad taught me very good entrepreneurial lessons. Now, the interesting thing is out of my family is that some of my brothers are financially hopeless. Same dad, but he taught me different lessons, why I was paying attention to the lessons better than some of my brothers. In other words, one of my brothers, he's a total financial disaster, okay? It's because my dad always bailed him out. Taught him not to stand on his own 2 feet. Where dad never bailed me out. Even when I was going broke, he said, well, I'll help you as much as I can, but, it's your situation, you sort it out. and I had to fend for myself. Very important to allow people to do that. So what my dad would do is say, okay, if you help on the farm and you help, plow a paddock and pick up the sticks and get it ready for cropping, is that you can have one little section of the paddock. So we could plant our little sweet turnips in there, and I would work and I would, hire this is where I learned about business. I learned about leverage. I couldn't do it all myself. So I needed to employ other workmates, etc. I needed to make it a fun game and exciting for them to keep, because it's a boring, mundane job, right? So to get them to work, get them inspired, create games, make it a fun environment, and get them to work for very little, okay? As well, because there wasn't much money to pay them. And so I was able to learn this as an entrepreneur, and then I would sell those sweet turnips. Now, here's what you had to learn about business. You could work really hard, do a good job. Were you guaranteed success, yes or no? No, you could have a drought, and all your hard work goes down the drain. So you put all this effort in through summer and nothing can happen. Or you could have a great season, but then everyone has turnips, so the market's flooded and you make bugger all money. About once in 5 years, everything would line up and you'd make a lot of money. Okay, but then you had to wait till the money come in. You had to pay your expenses. You have to have capital. Then I had to invest in technology and buy a machine that would give leverage and have a production line. So I learned all these things as a teenager. It was one of the best lessons I ever had. And interestingly enough, I'd saved up about $15,000 as a teenager, which at the time was a lot of money. And I had a choice. And now that choice was, there's a 3,000-acre crown lease property at the back of my dad's farm. And it was actually come on the market for $17,000 at the time. This is many years ago. I had saved up $15,000. I was at a crossroads in my life. Now, what do you think that $17,000 farm is worth today? It's worth more than $500,000. Go higher. It's worth about $750,000. Okay, and it'll probably be worth double that within 10 years as well. How do I know that? Because I didn't buy it back then. I bought it for about $346,000 about 5 years ago. Okay? So the point is, instead of I could almost pay cash for that farm. So the difference would have been, it might have been some short-term pain because I could have spent that money or done something else with that money, but it would have been long-term gain. Does it make sense? And there's something about buying real estate or buying property for people, especially young people, it boosts their self-esteem. I think there's a valuable part of that. If people own something, it's a whole basis of free enterprise, our capitalist system, versus communism. If you own something, you seem proud of that, and it feels like you're progressing towards a future. Who's following what I'm saying there? Okay? You'll find people that are investors, they tend to have a better self-worth as a result. What I did with that money, unfortunately, I was influenced by one of my older brothers, and I put it into a car. Because as a teenager, a car equals what? Our delusion is it equals freedom, okay? And I invested in a car. Now, what's that car worth 5 years later? Well, he crashed it, so it was worth nothing, okay? So the point is, like many people, I spent that, because that equals short-term pleasure. I get a car, okay? You pick up more girls as a teenager, you have a car, and it equals freedom. Or we think it equals freedom, but most people go into a debt trap, borrow for a car, and it's the beginning of them foregoing freedom, really. So that's an example there, what happened to money. So anyhow, I went off to a university to study accountancy because my career advisor said, Jamie, you want to make lots of money, become an accountant, and you'll make lots of money. Now, accountants find that rather humorous. Accountants actually count money, they don't necessarily make it all. And after a year of accounting, I was very frustrated. It was costing my parents, weren't able to fund my way through uni. I had saved up a lot of money as well, and I sold my car and I was funding my way through uni because uni is expensive. Also, the HECS debt going into to pay it back to the government when you earn enough money. So it's going into a lot of debt, borrowing a lot of money, doing whatever it takes to get an education because I was taught to be successful, you've got to go to uni, get a degree, you'll get a job, then you'll be successful, right? So tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So at every uni lecture, I wasn't really there to listen because it was inspiring and I was going to change my life. I was there mainly because I was added up how much each word was costing me. So that's the only reason I was listening. Because you think about university is very high-priced seminars, when you think about that. Incredibly high-priced seminars. You're paying tens and tens of thousands of dollars for these lectures. And I was bored. I was like, I want to make a difference. I want to do things in my life. I was ambitious. I wanted to become a millionaire. And I didn't feel like I was learning anything about any of those topics at university. So after a year, I said to my mother, I said, why isn't there a university that would teach you how to be successful in life? That planted the seed. Little did I know a decade later, after I'd become a self-made millionaire and financially successful, that would lead to me, one of my companies I started was obviously 21st Century Education. So in life, is it interesting when seeds are planted, whether we're open to that and how our life will flow for something to happen if we're open to that awareness? Because often in life, you'll see a challenge or see a problem in society. Maybe that problem you see, that challenge you see, maybe that is a message for you to do something about it. Do we just blame or make excuses or bitch about what's not right in society? Or do we go, hang on a minute, that's an opportunity. If I can solve that problem or I can do something about that, I could add value to society. Jot that down. The key to becoming wealthy, there's 2 rules to it. 1, you must add value. Your basic premise, your basic organizing principle should be, in any endeavor you do, is to add value to society. If you want to make $1 million, you should add at least $10 million worth of value in return to get $1 million. Does that make sense? Most people go, yeah, Jamie, I'd write my goals. I want to be rich. And if the universe was to ask them, well, what are you going to give in order to get? Because we know that's a universal principle. Is it true? We must first give before we get. And most people are like, well, I haven't really thought about what I'm going to give. I just want. I want to get. And they just give me, give me, give me. It's almost like they're entitled to something. And that's an element of the poor psychology in this country, that somehow the country owes people a living. So in other words, we must give. So we must add massive value. As an investor, you're going to learn how to add value to society. As an entrepreneur, that's what you should be doing. If you're in a career, you should be adding value and boosting the profits of the company you work for. If you're not focused on helping your company make more profit, then what the hell are you doing there? Are you just taking a paycheck, or are you giving? Your primary focus should be, what value are you adding? And if you're not adding enough value, the way you add more value is get more skills. So this weekend, you'll learn the different skill sets. Improve your skills. There'll be other programs you can do that will develop your skills to add more value to society. Okay? So the second thing you must do is make a profit. In business or in a career or anything you do, you must add value, but you must make a profit as well. You have to balance those 2 things. Add value, make no profit. Your business or your career won't be around to continue adding value. If you just focus on the profit and don't add value, your business won't be around either. Okay? So it's this balance between the 2. And one of the reasons why people aren't wealthy is because they have poor self-esteem. Their level of, jot this down, your level of income or net worth will rarely exceed your level of personal development. You may have heard that before, but is it true? Your level of income or net worth will rarely ever exceed your level of personal development, your level of financial intelligence and emotional intelligence. And if it does, it'll usually destroy your life. Jimmy, what do you mean by that? If it does, it'll usually destroy your life. Do we have examples in this country, in this world, of sports stars, athletes, movie stars, rock stars in particular, that their level of net worth, their level of income has far exceeded their level of personal development? Yes or no? And what generally happens to their life? It destroys their life. They turn to drugs, abuse of alcohol, etc., because they can't handle it. Okay? So in other words, you want to grow your level of personal development if you want to grow your wealth. And that's just a common thing. So that's why personal development is a very big aspect of becoming financially successful. Because as we grow, we expand, we have more skill set, we can add more value, we're more capable, we have a better psychology, we can make better decisions, we can be strategic, intelligent, we can take action, we can think, solve problems, we're more beneficial to society. Making sense? I quit university. Now, I'm not recommending that's a strategy for success, but I'm here to suggest is that in the 21st century, I believe we need more than a school and university education to be successful. It's not enough. And those systems don't guarantee, university used to basically guarantee a job, but it doesn't anymore. So I don't recommend quitting university. I usually tell people, if you don't have a better alternative, then you should continue studying until you have something much better. So it doesn't hurt to have a degree these days. It doesn't hurt to have an apprenticeship of some sort, because it's plan B. Even though you might want to do this, but at least if you got this, you have a plan B. You have a backup to do why you're moving towards what you really want to do. Because most people, when they're young, they're not sure what they want to do. But a degree at least can move you in the direction of where you're going. Okay? And that's where, obviously what I went out to is realize that, I needed to develop my own education. I wasn't taught the things I wanted to at school. So what holds a lot of people back financially is they don't have the mindset. So immigrants are 4 times more likely because they have the mindset. So jot this down. The mindset is this. Jot this word down, cultural hypnosis and cultural conditioning. We're trying to identify here other reasons why most people are not financially successful. We talked about before, remember, people into security. So the capacity to be able to deal with uncertainty in life increases your ability to be successful. Most people have a very low capacity to deal with uncertainty. Most people don't like change. Therefore, even let's say, if you divided all the wealth up in Australia, everyone would be a millionaire. Did you realize that? If they divide all the wealth up in the world, everyone would be worth about $3 million. It's not a lack of money. There's people starving in this planet. Are they starving because of lack of food? Yes or no? No. It's not a lack of food. There's, in many cases, too much food. People are in poverty in this world. Is it from a lack of money? Yes or no? It's not a lack of money. There's billions and trillions of dollars. Actually, some of the problems, there's too much money. Some are going to cause some of the problems on the planet. So it's not a lack of. At school, we're taught economics is the study of what sort of resources? Finite or scarce resources. Make sense? That is, jot this down, that's called the scarcity model of the world. Many people believe that to be true. Remember, it's up to you what you believe to be true. But what you believe will determine the results that you get. So look at your results and say, do I want to get a different result? Then I might need to change what I believe to be true. Scarcity model. That's what I was taught at economics. However, there's another model of the world. It's called the abundance model. What's it called? Abundance model. I'm going to give you a clue if you want to do better financially. You might want to consider the abundance model. The abundance model is to look at that there's an unlimited amount of things in the world. There's not a lack of. As an example, people say, well, Jamie, what about oil? Isn't there a finite amount of oil and it's going to run out? Well, that's a scarcity model. Look at the world. But if you go back to the early 19th century, 1906, I think it was, or whenever it was, there was this black sludge bubbling out of the ground in a place called Texas. What was that black sludge? Oil. Before that, did it have any real value? Yes or no? Had no value. It was just black sludge. It was human ingenuity, human ideas, human brilliance that was able to turn that black sludge into something of value. Does it make sense? And in the 1970s, there was the energy crisis. Some of you remember the energy crisis. Early 70s, they said the world is running out of oil. The world is running out of energy. And the world was, basically they thought the world was doomed in the 70s, for those who can remember. Many of you can't. But it was just misguided because what they realized is that there was more oil than they thought, and they didn't factor in that technology would increase fuel consumption of cars, would require less oil. Technology would find more oil. And even today, they're now finding that in America, one of the biggest industries, America only this week officially become a net exporter of energy, of oil and of fuel. They've always been a consumption and that's why they're around the world getting as much oil as they can. Because why? In recent years, because of the price of oil, they've gone and discovered shale oil. They can extract oil from shale. So there's all this oil they didn't factor in before. Now America and many industries actually starting to boom, and the shale industry is one booming industry in America, and they now become a net exporter. So where they didn't have enough energy before, now they're actually going to have more than they need and actually are able to export it. Does that make sense? I'm not saying you can look at, is there a lack of things, or is there an abundance of things? Is there an abundance of energy on the planet? Yes. If we run out of oil, we can come up with another idea and get it from the sun. Solar energy, or we can get it from the wind, or we can get it. It's really always is an abundance if we look at it in that model. If we look at fear and scarcity and hold on to our money like maybe that's all we'll get, and we're not generous, we're not giving, we live in fear, you see how it's the universe will reflect. Life is like a mirror. If we behave that way and we hold on, we're in fear, what will be reflected back to us? Does that mean you waste money? No. Money is just, to jot this down, is just a form of energy. Money is just a form of energy, just an idea. The idea that we were sold was the industrialization idea. The idea is you work really hard in a job 40, 50 years, that's how you get money. Money is compensation for selling your time, for selling your life. And that's what people think money is. Equals pain, equals hard work. That is just one form of money, the least effective form of money. For us to be able to compute and say you're going to learn strategies this weekend where many of you could make more money having your money work for you in literally 15 minutes a month, as an example, than you probably make working an entire week or an entire month through hard work. Your brain, if you come from the industrialization era, is going to go, that doesn't compute. That sounds too good to be true, or that doesn't sound possible, or maybe it's for the lucky few, or just, because our paradigm or our belief system or our cultural conditioning was something different. So the common cultural beliefs that people have is, one, sounds too good to be true. Therefore, many people become narrow-minded and miss out on opportunities. I'm here to tell you, if you want to become a millionaire, there is many things that sound too good to be true, but actually are. So I changed my belief system many years ago. Here's my belief system. It's up to you what you use. If something sounds too good to be true, what I say is it possibly is, but I'm going to check out the facts because I don't want to miss a good opportunity. If someone told me I could buy a house many years ago in Noosa, and that house, as an example, would triple in value and make a couple of $1 million in paper in a very short period of time, then I said, sounds too good to be true. But in property, sometimes that can happen. So if I shut that thing off, I would have missed that opportunity. Because I was open, to check out the facts, there's no guarantees, but there could be an opportunity here. So we want to have, if we have the average belief system, we'll get the average result. We need to have a sophisticated investor's belief system. And sophisticated investors know there's tremendous opportunity. Some things sound too good to be true, some are. Others are worth checking out because they can actually be a good opportunity, so we don't want to miss them. Is that just more intelligent thinking? That's thinking in a more strategic way. High return equals high risk. That's a cultural belief system. A sophisticated investor, do they believe that? No. A sophisticated investor will know, which my wish is for you to become one by this weekend. I know it's a short time frame, but this is probably the fastest way I know how to become a sophisticated investor is go through these 4 days, is high return equals high risk. In many cases, that is true, not in all cases. There's actually some cases where you can lower your return, lower your risk, and increase your return at the same time. Sophisticated investors know that. The ultimate sophisticated investor knows that you can actually, other belief system, is you need money to make money. Okay, that's a typical cultural belief system. You need money to make money. Sophisticated investors know, not necessarily true, you don't always need money to make money. Actually, jot this down, I think this is very critical, and this is the importance of financial education, because it's normal in our mindset to spend tens and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars going to university because everyone else does that, and that's what we've been conditioned to believe is the key to success. And if you invest in a university degree and you get a better paying job over 50 years, if you earn an extra 50 or 100,000 a year than someone without a tertiary education, that is a massive return on your investment. We go, that's a good investment in our education. But many people won't invest $30 into a good book to teach them how to be financially educated. Does that make sense? Or how to outperform in life. Because they go, it sounds too good to be true. It's probably not possible. Everything's a scam. Or I know about that, etc. Does that make sense? Whatever excuses, blame, whatever limitations they have. How many people are willing to do what I did? Sold my car, borrowed money, tens of thousands of dollars. I would invest well over $100,000 in the beginning to get my real life, what I call a 21st century education, a financial education being a big component. How many people are willing to do that these days? Most people aren't. That's why most people didn't become millionaires in their 20s like me either. Does it make sense? But many people do that for uni degree, and my friends were going, what are you doing going to all these expensive seminars? I was flying overseas at the time. I didn't have hardly any money. And they said, why are you wasting all this money? I'm thinking to myself, I remember being at a university lecture, and I thought that was a waste of a lot of money. So I don't see it as spending. I see that I was what? Investing in my future. Because my mentor said, Jamie, if you're not willing to invest in your future, then who is? Don't expect other people to invest in your future. If you're not willing to do it, then why should someone else invest in you? I was willing to back myself. I was willing to do that with no guaranteed return, no guarantee of success. But when you put yourself on the line, then you have to perform. Is that true? because there was no going back. It's like I had to perform. My dad helped me go guarantor on a loan, but he simply said, this is up to you if you want to be going overseas, doing all these seminars, if that's really what you want to do. Because I said, this is exactly what I want to do, is what I've been looking for. He said, I'll help you go guarantor, but you're responsible for the money. So he didn't buy, he made me be responsible. But I valued that, and I valued that education. And as a result of that, that's how, combined with learning through doing that with my mentor, I was able to bit by bit turn my life around. Does that make sense? So I'll share a story with you. There's a young guy that grew up in a town. I grew up in northern New South Wales in a town called Glen Ennis. A gentleman that lived in a town called Inverell. And his dad said to him at 18 years of age, son, he was failing at school, hopeless in year 12. He said, you probably should leave town when you're young, because if you don't, in a small country town, you'll probably stay there for the rest of your life. There's nothing, but it's pretty true in a small country town. So he had the choice of working in the local car dealership in Inverell or leaving. He decided to leave at 18 years of age, and he moved to the Hunter Valley. He got a job as an electrician and worked in the mines. There's a lot of mining industry in the Hunter Valley. On the side, he set up a side business of electricians servicing the mines. And did this, and at 28 years of age, he'd built up a reasonably successful business on the side. But he figured out, he deduced at a young age, at 28 years of age, he was smart enough to figure this out, that the people making most of the money from the mines were not the people working for the mines, but the people who what? Owned the mines. Very clever, wasn't he? Who else thinks they could figure that out? Okay, you don't have to be that clever to make a lot of money. So he had this ambitious goal at 28 years of age that he would buy himself a coal mine. Now, the only challenge with that, he didn't have much money. He had a small business, had a house, he wasn't rich. But at 28 years of age, he was certainly a go-getter. He was willing to have a go. And he found a particular coal mine lease that was available for sale, but they're generally not cheap, these things. And the cheapest one he could find was $30 million. Now, most people go, well, you need money to make money. See, that just proves it. There's no point me even trying. I'm just going to stay working for the mines. I'm just going to stay working for my boss. What's the point? I mean, it's out of reach. There's no point. Get realistic. Who do you think you are to even dream of owning your own mine one day? But at 28 years of age, he was a fairly resourceful thing. One of my friends, I want to jot this down, Chris Howard. Some of you may be familiar. Who's heard of Chris Howard before? Some of you may have done some of his programs. He says, you want to jot this down, it's never a lack of resources to become wealthy. It's only ever a lack of resourcefulness. Remember that. It's never a lack of resources. There's always plenty of money around. It's only ever a lack of resourcefulness. The people that become wealthy are people that are very resourceful. They're able to come up with ideas out of thin air, ways to make things happen. This particular young gentleman was very resourceful. At 28 years of age, he wrote it down as a goal. He's going to do this. Didn't have the money, but he didn't let that stop him, because if the idea is good enough, the money will show up. You might want to jot that down. If the idea is good enough, the money will show up. So what he did is that he realized to negotiate to buy this, with the owner to buy this mining lease, coal mining lease, he would need to have a law firm to represent him, so it looks like he has money. He didn't have any money to pay the law firm, so he knocked on the doors of many law firms and said, I don't have the money to pay you, but I will pay you, if the deal comes off, I'll pay you double your normal fees at the end of the year. And eventually got a law firm to go, you know what, okay, we'll do it. So he had this law firm and negotiated back and forth, put a tender in to buy this coal mining lease. There's about 12 other people put tenders in, other companies, or big companies with money. And so he wasn't even considered seriously. The other tenders fell over because I think the credit crisis started to happen. So the others weren't able to complete. And eventually, after 2 years of persisting, harassing the poor owner of this coal mine lease, he was able to convince the coal miner, the owner of the lease, to sell to him for $30 million. But he didn't have $30 million, so he negotiated a deal where he'd pay $1 million non-refundable deposit and the balance of another $6.5 million in 6 months' time, and the other $22.5 million in 24 months' time. So he had 6 months to pay another $6.5 million, which he didn't have, and the balance in 24 months of $22.5 million. And he had to come up with $1 million non-refundable deposit. Repeat after me. Something to think about. Would most people take on that risk? Yes or no? They're not willing to back themselves. They're not willing to be resourceful. So he didn't have 30 million, but he used the strategy of vendor financing, saying you don't always need the money to buy something. You just come up with a deposit and pay it on terms. Now that's a strategy I've used to buy businesses. I've used to buy real estate as well. It's just being resourceful. Being resourceful. Or delaying the settlement. I did that on some of my initial properties. I didn't have all the money. I didn't even have the deposit. I didn't even have some of my first properties. I didn't even have the ability to get bank finance, but I paid a deposit. Now, Lucy would know you're not meant to do this, but if you're willing to pay a deposit, you're going to forfeit if you can't come up with finance. But years ago, I remember doing that because I was absolutely committed. I would find a way. Now, I negotiated a smaller deposit because I couldn't afford the full deposit on some properties. I'd pay a smaller deposit, and I negotiated a delayed settlement. And then I'd go, oh, shit, I've got to come up with the money. I've got to get the bank to loan me some money. But when you really push, you make things happen. And that's how I was able to get started in real estate. I could have said, I don't have the money. There's no point trying. But if the dream is big enough, you'll find a way. If you're absolutely committed, you will find a way. So as a result of that, what this particular gentleman did is he had to come up with $1 million non-refundable. He borrowed against his business. He had a small business, and he also had a house, and he had some friends. And he managed to get $1 million together, everything he had, for a non-refundable deposit. Knowing that not only did he have 6 months to find another $6.5 million and 24 months to find $22.5 million, he also needed to find quickly $2.5 million to drill test the coal mine lease to prove that there's any coal there. So he went knocking on every door, broken house in Sydney to, will you give me some money? Now, they would say, well, what's your experience? Well, have you ever owned a mine before? No. Doesn't look good. Where's your CV? He's just worked. He's just an electrician. But he wasn't worried about what his past experience was. He had a gut instinct and believed he was acquiring an asset that was worth more than $30 million. He didn't have the money to do it, but he found he would find a way. So he knocked on dozens and dozens of houses. Now, most people, after getting told, no, 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 who are you? Who do you think you are? You're an idiot. You're crazy. You're just a kid. You're going to blow your $1 million, would give up. Is that true? But if you had everything on the line, you're like, I want to give up, but I'm going to lose $1 million. Are you that much more committed? Yes or no? You have to continue pushing through. You're not going to accept excuses from yourself of why you can't get the result. You have to be resourceful. So he got more certain. And he eventually was able to convince a stockbroking firm in Sydney, in Martin Place. He was able to convince them, and they went out to 60 of their clients, would pitch the idea, and they raised $2.5 million, and he gave away, once again got creative, he gave away a percentage, about 15% of his company. Made money out of thin air. And others saying, well, this company, I'm buying this $30 million lease, I'm going to give 15% of it away for $2.5 million. Creative, being resourceful, coming up with the money. Gets the $2.5 million, they do the drill testing. His gut instinct was right. He knew enough about working in the mines to know what's a good coal mine lease. And the place was loaded with coal. As a result of that, once you have the test, now he has proof he can get investors. He was able to go to China because that's where all the money is. And he was able to raise the $6.5 million and then raise the other $22.5 million off investors. And he got his coal mine lease. He didn't want to sell, but his partners, he got the $2.5 million off in the beginning. They wanted their money back. And so there was an offer put on the table by a bigger mining company. He said, we'll buy the mine off you, but we will give you a small amount of cash and the rest shares in our company. His partners wanted the cash, so he had to sell. Didn't want to. And this particular gentleman got 170, he took shares and gave the cash to his partners. He got $177 million in shares for his $30 million coal mine. But the story doesn't end there. He backed himself. He borrowed against the shares to buy out his partners and to buy more shares. The shares were $8 a share that he got in a bigger mining company, and he borrowed more money to buy more of the shares. And as a result of doing that, then he was offered, not long after that, he was offered, wanted to buy out his shares in this company that bought him out. And the shares went from $8 to $20 a share. He got a phone call from his broker saying, we have a buyer, do you agree? He said, yep. And 2 days later, he had $452 million in cash transferred to his bank account. Raise your hand, make some noise, you'd be excited by that, okay? Yeah. Now, we're talking a kid that grew up in a small country town about 6 hours from here that had a dream. But it didn't end there, because guess what all the critics said? Because it doesn't matter how successful you become, you'll always have your critics. Does that make sense? The critics said he is simply lucky. He got lucky. He did it once. Well, yeah, true, maybe he was lucky, but he's also resourceful. Is that true? He had a belief system. It was possible. He was able to deal with massive uncertainty. The greater your capacity to deal with uncertainty, the greater your capacity to become wealthy. He was a deal maker. He wouldn't take no as an answer. He was creative. He also had a sense of certainty. The person that he raised the money off initially, they said, you know what? The only reason we invested in him because we thought, you know what? This guy's either a complete idiot or he's onto something. He's either a complete idiot or onto something because he's going to lose his $1 million. He had enough certainty, he also had enough money in it himself that people like this guy could just be onto something. See, certainty to be able to influence other people is a key thing that made him successful. But it didn't end there. People say he was just lucky. Well, what he did is then he put $25 million into another mine, borrowed the rest, about $500,000. And despite the difficulties of the credit crisis through all this and paying the interest, he bought this off some of the bigger companies that didn't see value in it. And then last year, he listed that mining company on the stock market. It's known as Aston Resources. And he made another $600 million. He's the youngest person under 40 in this country. He's a billionaire today. And he did it at 34 years of age. Some of you know who I'm talking about. It's Nathan Tinkler. Yeah. Give him a big hand for that, by the way. Now, I share that story with you. Now, Nathan became a billionaire in his mid-30s because, one, a university degree? No. A good education? No. But what he had, one, he had the ability to entertain new ideas. Is it true? The possibility, what's possible. Was he good at taking action? Yes or no? Yes. Did he make lots of excuses why something couldn't be done? No. Was he resourceful? Was he strategic? Did he see how you can buy things, assets, even when you don't have the money? Was he committed? Yes or no? Yes. Totally committed. That's how you become a billionaire. Absolute total commitment. Now he owns half of Newcastle, Newcastle Knights, Newcastle Jets, etc. And he's spent about $200 million on one of his hobbies, which is horse racing. He owns one of the largest horse racing farms in Australia. You know, who would like to be able to spend $200 million on a hobby? Okay, if you be resourceful like that, you can. You know, so that's an example of what it takes. Now, you say, well, Jamie, does that mean I can go out and become a billionaire before I'm 40? Probably not. But can you model that and be more successful at what you do? Of course you can. You can be more resourceful, you can be more committed, you can deal with more uncertainty, because most people will settle for a safe, secure job because they need total certainty. Richard Branson's income this year, does he know absolutely what he will earn this year, yes or no? He has massive uncertainty. He can earn nothing through to 50, 100, $500 million in his group of companies. Massive uncertainty, but massive potential to earn a lot of money. The more certainty you need, you put the ceiling on what you earn. 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, whatever it is. Total certainty, you know exactly what you'll earn for the year, but that's a low income. Does it make sense? Because people have that need for security. So we have to be able to develop, the certainty comes from within. And that's what you're going to learn soon is emotional mastery. Certainty comes from within. You can create it from within. Then you can be confident you don't need to get it from, because is a job certain anyhow, yes or no? It's just an illusion of certainty because they could lose the job anyhow. They could be outsourced, downsized, the company could go broke. So there is no certainty. It's a false certainty in something external that people think because they're not getting the certainty from within. And that's why it holds a lot of people back from becoming wealthy, because their need for that. What I was talking about before is also, jot this down, is most people think they have to win lotto to retire. Let's say they won $2 million in lotto. They know they put the $2 million in the bank. That's 5% in the bank. That'll equal what? $100,000 a year. They go, I could probably retire off that. True? Well, here's what we're going to understand the value of financial education is the more financially educated we become, the less capital we will need to become financially successful. See, the average person will need $2 million because all they know what to do with the money is put it in the bank. They don't know how to turn money into money. developing this skill of turning money into money, is that as we become more financially educated, the less money we will need. For instance, Sunday, I'll have Lou present to you a strategy that I do is invest in US properties. Just one of the strategies that I do, right? I know in the US property market, for $500,000 as an example, you can make as much as $100,000 income per year, okay? Because you're more financially educated, you can access other strategies as an example that you don't require the $2 million in capital to make the $100,000 to retire on. You actually only need less capital. Does that mean you can get there faster, yes or no? By being smarter and being more educated, okay? As you become even more financially educated, you can get smarter and smarter where you can be the ultimate sophisticated investor, where you can make money with zero outlay. Richard Branson is a classic case of that. Many business deals he'll do, he'll put no money in and make a lot of money. Okay? I've been able to do that in many cases in some deals, or at least in some deals, put a small amount of money in and make a very large return. So the more financially educated you become, the less capital you will need to become successful, but the more education you need, okay? And the quicker you will get there because you need less capital, it takes less time. Make sense? Okay? So it's a very important distinction to understand the value of our education. You know, money is an idea is money. Information is money. It's power to each and every one of us. Okay? So the other thing people say quickly is that, Jamie, but you know, I'm not materialistic. I'm not really into money. You know, money's not really important. Now, I will agree that money should not be the number one priority in your life. If you want to have a healthy life, I agree that your relationships, your friendships, your family, your health, your career even, should all be more important than money. True? However, in a materialistic society, whether we like it or not, if we don't master this thing called money, then money will jump to the top of the pile. Okay? So a lot of people will say, you know, I'm not really into money. Money's not important. But what do they do with most of their life? Where do they spend it? Working for money. But at the same time, they say, oh, money's not important to me. What they're really saying is they're deluded. They're in denial. They need to get over denial and accept that. Jot this down. Money is what? Money is energy, but what is it? It's also an idea, but what I want you to jot down is money is important. Write it down. There's no point living in denial. If you want to have a healthier relationship with money, you need to have an honest relationship with it. You need to accept it as important. Now, some people say money's not important. Well, you know, it may not be important, but I put it, you know, pretty much up there with oxygen. Okay. Try living without it in our world. You will need it. So let's be honest. Money is important whether you like it or not. The more you master money, the less importance it has. The less mastery of money you have, it becomes highest priority. So the same people say, I'm not materialistic. I'm not into money. Money's not important. Yeah, whatever. Let's check out the story. So I say, let's test this theory, shall we? Money's not important. Here's what I want you to do. Go down to Woolworths. Okay? Load up your shopping trolley to the brim. Push it up to the checkout operator and say, you know what? I'm not really into money. I'm not materialistic. Money's not important. And continue to push the trolley outside the door. You may not be into money, but guess what? The rest of the world is. So whether you like it or not, money is important. So we've got to master it so it can stay down at the level it should be. You don't want to go through a life where money dictates your life. You want to have a life where you can value your friendships, your relationships, you can value your health. How many people destroy their health in the pursuit of money? I mean, how important is health? It's so important, so much more important than money, but people put stress of money and anxiety, etc., and it's upside down, and then it's not a way to live life. We need to master this thing so we have the freedom to do what we want. How important is it to do a career that you love, not for a paycheck? Jot this down. You should work to learn, not to earn. The most unhappiest people on the planet are the people that work purely for what? Money. The happiest people on the planet are the people that work purely for passion, achievement, a sense of significance, making a difference, contribution. Does Oprah Winfrey wake up every morning and go, oh shit, Monday morning, Another damn TV show. I'm over this job. Yes or no? No. Is she passionate about what she does? Yes or no? Does she feel like she's making a difference? Is she enjoying what she does? Is she also paid a lot of money for what she does? Notice that there's a direct correlation. Would she do what she does for no money? Yes or no? Who thinks she actually would? She enjoys that. If there's no money, she'd still probably do it. It's no big deal to her. Here's the key. If you're willing to do something, even if you didn't get paid for it, because you enjoy it, because it's a passion, because you believe in it, or it's something you want to do, then you're more likely to be paid a lot of money. Do you realize that? Society, jot this down, society rewards passion. I don't care if you're a waiter or waitress. If you have passion for what you do, you'll get more tips. You'll get headhunted to work in another company. Why? Because every company wants passionate, good people. You're worth something. How many times you go into a restaurant and you get crap service? They're looking at the watch, they're like, oh God, another customer. We just wanted to close up shop. We hate customers, basically. You feel like that. They don't want to serve you. It's a job to them. You can tell they don't own the business. Just employees. Or you go into another restaurant and you're treated with such caring. It's like, sure, they get paid, but they love what they do, okay? They love what they do. They want to give you the most. They want to give you the service. They're proud of who they are. They want to be the best they can. Or it's their own business that they're really wanting to look after you. Does that make sense? You're more likely to tip them, more likely to tell your friends about them, they're more likely to be headhunted for other job opportunities. It all comes down to who we are. The fastest way to get out of a job you don't like is to be so goddamn good at it. And you'll be headhunted out of there. Does that make sense? So people need passion. There's nothing worse than doing something mundane that you hate over and over again. It's a recipe for failure. We all know, no matter how many times you've heard successful people, they will say, find your what? Find your passion. Yeah, but Jamie, I don't really know what I want to do. Well, jot this down. Clarity is power. You better start finding out what you want to do. Take a guess. Have a guess. You don't have to be perfect about what you want to do, but what is something that interests you? 17 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I realized I didn't want to sleep on my friend's couch for too much longer. Okay? So I said, what do I want to do? And one of my friends, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. One of my friends said, Jamie, I've just started working for this group of companies. This guy's a multi-millionaire. You've got to come meet him. I know you're looking for a mentor. You know, and he was working, this particular gentleman had built a group of companies, accounting practice, commercial property, real estate, financial planning, and he'd become wealthy at a fairly young age. He was in his 50s. And I said to my friend, I said, do you think you can get me a job there? That sounds like something I'd like to learn. I want to learn about money. I want to learn about investing. I really need to, I want to learn about being an entrepreneur. And he said, I'll try and get you a job there. So he spoke to one of the managers and there was no jobs going. So I was like, well, damn, do I give up? Or do I be resourceful? Do I be creative? And I went there and I said to one of the managers, I said, you know, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to work for free for X amount of period of time to prove that I can deliver results. And after X amount of weeks, if I can deliver certain results, you'll agree to give me a job. Fair enough deal? It's what you call a risk reversal. It was being creative. So I wasn't going to accept no as an answer. Most people accept no as an answer. You will not live your dreams if you take no as an answer. No does not exist. There's always a way around it. Okay? It comes from certainty. Okay? So many people say it's not possible. It's like, tell that to successful people, something's not possible, and you'll see what they do. They'll go out and just prove it is. How many people give up on their dreams because someone says no? Get over it. Is it true, guys? How many guys in this room would have got anywhere if he took no as an answer? The point is that you don't take no as an answer. There's always a way to get what you want if you are committed. When there's any engagement, whoever's most certain will win. Now, Nathan Tinkler convinced other people to give him millions of dollars. Why? Because he was more certain than they were. And people buy certainty. If you're not willing to back yourself and you're not certain that you can achieve something, why should someone else back you? Does it make sense? If you don't believe in your idea, how many people come and want to pitch an investment idea, but they put no money into it themselves, and they expect other people to put money into an idea they're not willing to back themselves? What does that show? So the point is I got a job opportunity because I was willing to work for free, because I was willing to negotiate, because I was willing to deliver results. And as a result of that, several weeks later, I'd proved to myself, all I had to do was be better than his other employees, which wasn't hard. No disrespect to them, but they'll thank God it's Friday. They were working for money. I wasn't there to work for money. I was there to learn and serve my apprenticeship. I was there to learn and have a chance. The money was secondary. Sure, I needed money, but I was there for the passion, to learn. So I was willing to do whatever it took. And all I had to do was outperform them. So I was offered a job. And then I said, you know what? I could have took the safe, secure paycheck, the 50 grand a year. Could have took it. Deciding, very pivotal point in my life. I knew that if I took that safe, secure paycheck, I'd pay my rent, start paying some of my debt back. I had some security in my life, which I needed because my life was all over the place. But I also knew it would be dangerous. Because you know why? I'd get comfortable. The danger of being comfortable in a country like this is so easy to be comfortable. That kills most people's dreams. Migrants thrive because they come from a very uncomfortable environment usually. They can't just settle for where they're at because it's too uncomfortable, so they thrive in it. In Australia, you can just get along. No one's going to starve. Everyone's going to be taken care of pretty much, so we can be comfortable. You just go to the beach. But I didn't want to be comfortable, so I negotiated a strategy I teach in the business program and the internet program as well about how to restructure yourself. So I negotiated to work on performance. I didn't want to have to be there 40, 50 hours a week. I wanted to have control of my time, and I was willing to deliver results, and I wanted to get paid more. I could deliver those results for the company, then I get paid on those results. That means I can earn more money. And as a result of that, I knew I could outperform. I'd also studied marketing. I'd met Jay Abrahams and people like this from all the seminars I'd been going to. I'd learned so much. So I knew by what I'd learned, how to improve businesses. I looked at his business, thought he's wasting a lot of money. Every company's wasting money. So I negotiated. Eventually, I got to meet my mentor. I had to develop a relationship. People say, how do you get a mentor? It's all right for you, Jamie, you had a mentor. How do I get a mentor? Well, see, it was easy. I was living in New South Wales at the time, and they had this program. I got a knock on the door one day, sleeping on my friend's couch, and this self-made millionaire knocked on the door and said, Jamie, I heard you want to become a self-made millionaire. I'm your local self-made millionaire, here to give you some free coaching. You don't have that program in Queensland? Speak to your premier. That's what's holding you guys back. No, seriously, if you want a mentor, you have to add value. You have to add value and develop a relationship. Relationships are based on credibility. So I eventually got to talk to my mentor. And I was trying to convince him. I was sharing my story. But successful people aren't interested in stories. What are they interested in? All they're interested in results. They don't care about the story. I was emailing one of my staff this morning. I'm like, I don't care about the story. Just tell me what are the results. It's like trying to sugarcoat things. Oh, but this is happening. No, I'm not going to buy that bullshit. Just tell me what is the result. Okay, does that make sense? I'm not interested in the story. I just want to know what is. Does that make sense? This is most common. You'll hear my managers like, all Jamie wants to know is what are the results. Don't tell him anything else. That's because what else matters? It's only the result. Everything else is usually bullshit, hype, sugarcoating. Cut straight to the chase. What is the result? And my mentor was like this. He was brutal. So I'm telling so I'm trying to convince him to be my mentor, right? This is this young kid. He's in all this debt. So I'm telling he asked me a simple question. He goes, how much you saving? I'm like, I'm in all this debt. You don't understand. I've got all this. I'm not saving anything. He goes, why are you wasting my time? He said to me, I thought you said you were committed. You want me to help you? He said this, jot this down. He said, if you can't save money, then you can't live your dreams. Was that true? That's honest. You can't save money, you can't live your dreams. Simplistic, but it was honest. See, I had all these excuses why I couldn't save money. You don't understand. I had this story. I'm in all this debt. I got ripped off. I'm owed all this money. Yeah, bullshit, whatever. It's a true story, but get over the story. The results are you're broke. And you're going to go bankrupt unless you get out of denial and do something about it. So I had to let go of the excuses and the blame. The reality was I wasn't saving money. So he said, you're not committed. He said, don't waste my time. I thought, rich people are bastards. I was right. But it was true. I went out of there and I become one of Australia's #1 savers. There wasn't an official award for that. I gave it to myself. But before that, I couldn't save. But what he had done is he had, jot this down. This is what we're going to do this weekend. He had reframed me. It's an NLP term, neuro-linguistic programming. If you want to change our psychology, sometimes we need to reframe ourselves. In other words, what he did in that moment, he reframed me. In other words, the reason I wasn't saving, because we make decisions. Psychology 101, very quickly we do this. I'll go through this quickly now. Psychology 101. We make decisions for one or two reasons. One, it's to avoid what? For those who read my book, we talk about this. To avoid pain or to gain what? Pleasure. Gain pleasure. Sounds simplistic, but if you want to understand how you make decisions, you'll do it to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. Okay? Every decision you make. Women, why do you wear makeup of a morning? To avoid pain of what your face will look like without it. Or the pleasure if you have it on. Most women, they go, oh, it's a joy. I want to wear makeup today. I just can't wait. Is it true? You do it more so not to impress men, but to impress other women. Is that true? What other women will say. Women don't dress up to impress men, do you? Rarely. Ever. We make decisions. Why did some of you come to this seminar? There's one or two reasons. One, for some of you made a decision recently or months ago or years ago, whenever you decided. One, to avoid pain. You're sick of financial pain in some cases. I've had enough, hit a threshold, I want to change this. That's one reason. Others of you come for pleasure. Some of you go to seminars all the time. You've done really well. You've made money. And you realize, I've learned ideas. How many more ideas can I learn? I'm just going to earn more ideas. I can make more money. I can improve my career, my investing, etc. Driven by pleasure. Now, many of you probably for a combination of both. Is it true? So every decision we make is to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. If we can understand that, that will help us understand ourselves. The key to understanding others is to understand ourselves. As you get better at understanding your psychology, you'll have more compassion, more understanding for other people. Because you won't just react to their behavior. You'll be thinking, why is a person acting that way? Why are they behaving that way? People are not their behavior. Understand that. People are not, jot that down, people are not their behavior. In society, too many people judge other people by the way they behave. Okay? People are responsible for their behavior, ultimately, but people are not necessarily their behavior. There's usually a reason why they're behaving a certain way. If someone's angry, is there a reason for that? Generally, there's a reason for that. Okay? And we're going to look at that later. So pain and pleasure. So here's what happens. Jot this down. If we want to be wealthy, we need to do these few things. We need to save money. We need to work. And we need to invest. The average Australian, what emotion do they link to saving money? Pain or pleasure? Tell me. Pain. What about working? What do they link? Pain. You know when most heart attacks occur?
Monday morning.
Between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. Monday morning. Is that just coincidental? But think what happens is most people wake up on a Monday morning, they're like, oh my God. They do what's called an NLP future pace. You might have done this before in your life. Future pace is this. Monday morning, I hate my job. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm going to do this for another 20, 30, 40 years to pay off the mortgage. I hate it. I can't do this. And they stack all that pain of the next 20, 30, 40 years of waking up on a Monday morning to an alarm clock into their body right now. The body goes, oh, this is too painful. It's more pleasurable to have a heart attack and die than it is to live and go through all that pain for the next 40, 50 years. Now, we joke about that, but it actually happens. Is it true? Because the body works that way. So what that's called is future pacing, okay? It's a very powerful way to create leverage, though. Because, not leverage to have a heart attack, but leverage to go, you know what, if I don't make a change, that's the pain I'm going to suffer. In the future, imagine pain, so get you to change. Like if you want to quit smoking, if you future paced into the future, what it's going to cost you in terms of your health, and future pace into seeing and feeling your lungs being eaten alive while you're still trying to survive. Or worse, having to come home after the doctors told you. You've seen the ads on TV that you've got lung cancer and you're going to be dead in 3 months. And you had to go home and tell your children that. when people focus on that pain of having to do that and they fully associate to that pain, then they'll go, okay, it's too much pain, I can't bear this, I'll quit smoking. In that moment, they'll make the decision. Otherwise, people normally are like, yeah, I'll quit smoking next week. Or, yeah, I quit smoking 3 days ago. If you quit smoking, why the fuck are you counting? Does it make sense? If you quit smoking, why are you counting how many days since you've been smoking? What, so you can count how many days before you go back to smoking? You haven't really quit, have you? If you're counting how many days since you quit smoking, you haven't quit. You're just seeing how long you can go for until you go back to smoking. The point is, if you get leverage, when you associate, what people do is they disassociate. So who smokes in this room, by the way? I'm not picking on smokers, this is an example. This is an example many people relate to, right? So who's successfully quit smoking? A lot of people, well done. Okay? Now, successfully quit smoking, some of you quit just out of awareness. Oh, this is not good for me, I'm stopping doing it. Others of you had to get pain, is that true? There was probably something happened to you, you got enough pain, you go, what? I'm sick of feeling this way, or I'm sick of, etc. So you had enough pain, so you quit smoking. You associated to the pain. If you want to not quit, you disassociate to the pain. You put the pain over there, you don't see it, it's a long way away, and you don't associate to it. So it's like, no, smoking won't kill me, I'm fine. Well, I'll quit one day. So you don't have that urgency now. My point is, if we want to change behavior, we need to change what we associate pain and pleasure to. Because most Australians, what do they link to investing? Pain. So can you tell now, Psychology 101, most Australians are wired to link pain to saving, pain to work, pain to investing. They are wired to fail financially. Psychology, they're wired. Because jot this down, humans will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. Humans will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. Very important distinction. This is why most Australians are broke. Because they'll do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. In other words, here's what happens. Ever been to a circus or saw an elephant before? You know, with elephants, when they're young, they'll tie a chain around the elephant's ankle and tie that chain to a peg in the ground. That's to stop the elephant moving any further than the length of the chain. The elephant will try, this big strong elephant will try and move, but eventually as it keeps trying to move that chain, it cuts into its ankle, it keeps trying to move. Move equals pain, move equals pain, move equals pain. Eventually that becomes a habit. It becomes programmed to go, if I try and move any further away from this a peg in the ground, it's going to equal pain, so then I should stop moving and just stay close to the confined, limited space. Make sense? Once an elephant's been conditioned, trained to behave that way, they can take the chain off the elephant and they can put a small rope around the elephant's ankle. A rope the elephant could break in 2 seconds if it wanted to, but the elephant has been so programmed now. Now, we're talking elephants here, not talking about humans, by the way, so we're just talking about elephants. So programmed now, so conditioned now that don't move too far from the peg in the ground because that equals pain. So the elephant is controlled by nothing other than a limiting belief in its mind because it's been conditioned in over and over again. Who's following what I'm saying here? This is what happens to humans. This is what happens to each and every one of us in our society. We get conditioned by the cultural beliefs. We get conditioned by pain. So if we want to change, we need to change what we link pain and pleasure to. My mentor reframed me in that conversation, said, if you can't save money, you can't live your dreams. In that moment, I go, living my dreams equals pleasure. If I don't start saving money, that will equal pain. Where before, saving equaled pain because the pleasure was I could spend the money now and on whatever I wanted. Does it make sense? So most people are wired, spend now, save equals pain. So as a result of that, I changed that to pleasure. He reframed me just by being honest. Save equals dreams equals pleasure. Work because you want to learn. So I was focused, I was enjoying while I was working. Big thing, okay? Enjoyed that. Whereas before I had a few jobs, I hated it. Invest. When I learned to invest, I learned to change my psychology that investing was actually pleasurable. Instead of being scared, it's like, wow, I'd focus on I could make money. It's not that scary. And I'd link pleasure to it. I would follow through. See, here's what the average Australian does very quickly. Jot this down. One of the most predominant ways people become wealthy is through real estate in this country. Buy and hold over a period of time. It's made a lot of people money. Most of the wealth in this room would be made from house prices rising over the last several decades. So here's what people do. They could buy a property. Let's say this property was $300,000 and it was going to cost them $300 a month, negative geared. Okay, so they're going to rent it out. They're going to get some rent. They've got to pay the interest. And after tax, it's going to cost the person $300 a month out of their pocket. See, most people will focus on the pain of that. They're going, I'm already paying off my own house. I don't want to buy an investment property. I have to pay off another mortgage. It's going to cost me this. And that link was pain. Plus, what if the property doesn't go up? So they don't do it. They know they should, but they don't. But if I was to reframe people, let's say we do youth summits, several times a year with Eric and some of the presenters where the schools bring all the teenagers in and it's a free event. And if I was teaching a teenager, I'd say, okay, here's what I do to reframe a teenager. I say to them, one way to become wealthy is, say, if you want to invest in real estate. I said, but don't look at it as real estate. Here's what I'd say. Imagine there was these special bank accounts. Normally you have a bank account, you put money into it, the bank will pay you interest, like a piggy bank. However, there's these very special bank accounts. They don't pay you interest, they actually charge you interest, but it's special in this way. The bank account is this. You get this special bank account, you can try and get as many as you can. It's going to cost you $300 a month. You have to come up with and put into this bank account every single month. Doesn't matter where you get it from, you have to do it. Okay? At the end of the year, this special bank account will credit you $30,000 on average. Now, teenagers, $300 a month, $3,600 a year, come up with that, and the bank account on average will credit them $30,000 at the end of each year. Do teenagers get it pretty quickly, yes or no? They'd be like, how many of those special bank accounts can I get? Now, if I'm educating fully matured adults, okay, it takes a lot longer to get that to come across. Jamie, what the hell are you talking about? Simple. If you bought a property, on average, has property doubled in most places every 10 years? Some less, some more. In the last several decades, that's happened consistently. Doesn't mean it will continue to happen, but it has happened in the past. So this property's doubled over a period of 10 years to, say, 600,000. On average, it's grown, say, 30,000 per year. Does that make sense? So this magic bank account that's cost $300 a month after tax benefits, negative geared, you had to come up to put $300 into the magic bank account. Shortfall, on average, is credit you $30,000 at the end of each year in capital growth. Does that make sense? If we focus on that, if we focus on not just the pain of the $300 a month, but the potential reward, we go, that equals pleasure. How many, like a teenager, how many of those special bank accounts can I get? Make sense? And we would be more focused and go out and do it. Once I was reframed and looked at it that way, I was more proactive than doing it. But we can have all the logical sense, but if it equals pain, we will do more to avoid the pain. And that's why people self-sabotage. They know they should do something, so they force. The old school is force, willpower, discipline. That's what you have to do to be successful. Well, that generally doesn't work. Psychology will work for the short term, and then we'll go back to our old patterns, our old behavior. Why? Whenever we wired that way, we'll do more to avoid pain. So we'll avoid doing those things even though we know we should do it. Raise your hand in this room if you know things that you should be doing in your life that would improve your life immeasurably, would make a big difference, but you haven't been doing them. Raise your hand if you've got things like that. All of us, because why? We're wired a certain way. So the easy way, I'd say much more simpler way than willpower and discipline, is change what we focus on, change what we attach pain and pleasure to. My mentor helped me do that. With saving, I attached pleasure. I went out there and become an awesome saver. I attached pleasure to work because I worked to learn, not to earn. But ironically I end up going, my income went from $50,000 a year, where most people are earning in that company, to almost $1 million a year in less than 18 months. I was there to work to learn, but ironically, I made more money than everyone else. Isn't that interesting? The key is if you focus on your passion for working to learn, you're into it, you put more effort into it, and you'll tend to do better than other people. If you're just working for the money, you have low drive, low passion, and you won't do well because people just know you're just there for the money. They know they don't really care. You know you don't really want to make a difference. That'll come across to customers or clients at the company you're working for. They just won't feel your passion because there is none. Who's following what I'm saying? Society rewards passion. Remember that. Be passionate about your life. It won't last forever. A lot of things to be passionate about. Is that making sense? By changing what we link pleasure to this, we then can move towards those things. Making sense? Okay. Here's what I want you to turn to the person next to you very quickly. Teach them the importance of what pain and pleasure means and what we link to it. Go for it quickly.